Hey everyone, welcome to the Let's Talk Q&A show that we do every single week here live on the channel. And this week's Q&A show, we have some great questions for you guys, but right up top, let's just handle some of the dirty work first. Last week's question of the week winner who wins a digital code each and every single week. Well, last week happens to go to Jose again for the top 5. What was it? Top 5 comfort movies. Kind of one of the questions of the week there that we, put on the headline, put on the poster. You know how that works. Put on the thumbnail. See, a couple of you guys are joining. Got some questions ahead of time. Frank's ex-wife is here. Yeah, I hope you answer my question tonight. Which one was your question? I wonder where I have that. I know I added it somewhere. These are some of the questions that I have right now into the queue. Which one was your question? I know I actually had yours somewhere. So we'll have to see. My plan is definitely to do that, but want to give you guys just a next week. There will be no show, no live show. Just it's my wife's birthday next Saturday, and if I don't hang out with her on her birthday, take her out to dinner and do the husband thing, there will be no more Let's Talk Entertainment Media. So it's important that I do that. And then the week after, on March 22nd, that week, we will be doing a Q&A show like we do here every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. But I'll be joined by Shamrock Balls, a.k.a. David, who's in the chat right now, I see. Hey, John Love in the background. Lose 2 hours every time you watch a movie. Thanks, Frank's ex-wife. Okay, that is a good question. I have that in here, and I'll be answering that for sure tonight as well. So March 22nd, mark it down on your calendars. Shamrock Balls will be doing the Q&A show with me live that week. Maybe you guys get to you can ask him some questions instead of just hearing me ramble on. Change it up a little bit. And then there won't be a Saturday Q&A show on March 29th, but there will be a live show that week on March 27th, which is Thursday at 7 o'clock. And that one is going to be actually Tony Scott movies. I'm going to rank every single Tony Scott movie worst to first. I've already started watching them. First movie I watched was The Last Boy Scout because I haven't seen it in years. Do you guys remember The Last Boy Scout, by the way? It is ridiculous, that plot of that movie. Entertaining as hell, like a lot of Tony Scott movies, but that plot is insane. Basically, I hope you guys hear me well, by the way. Basically, Bruce Willis plays he used to be a Secret Service agent. He saved the president, but now he's washed up, basically a private eye, private detective. And Damon Wayans was a quarterback, the best arm in the league, but he got thrown out of it for doing drugs and gambling on professional sports, which you're not supposed to do. And that's a big part of the movie as well, is that it's not the NFL, but they call it pro football. It's not going to survive unless they can convince senators to make pro football legal. And all this big conspiracy happens in this movie. People are dying everywhere. And if only they knew 30 years later, gambling on sports, they go hand in hand here in America. It's pretty ridiculous right now. They're throwing in the bullpen. You see MGM in the background. But hey, I want to say hi to everybody who's in the chat. What's up, Mr. Smelly Potatoes? Good to see you here. Actress of Movies is here. She's actually started her own YouTube channel if you guys want to check it out. She's just beginning. Going to do some live shows and everything like that. Got some shorts out right now. Can recommend that. So hey to everybody who's here in the chat right now. And then let's just jump right into, the main topic of today's show, the top 10 St. Patrick's Day movies. Got a couple other questions. I got to find it. And right here, that is actually from Deathstalker83. I have a question for next week. What is your top 10 movies for St. Patrick's Day? St. Patrick's Day is March 17th. David, a.k.a. Shamrock Balls, is from Northern Ireland. He himself, I'm sure, knows about St. Patrick's Day. Here in America, St. Patrick's Day is kind of a holiday. I don't know how many people actually celebrate it for the actual reasons to celebrate it. Kind of just becomes one of those holidays where everyone gets together, goes to a parade, they go out drinking. It's a big bar holiday. And of course, there's been a lot of movies that, not many movies actually center around the holiday itself, which is weird. You might have scenes in there. So I don't know if I'm the best guy to make this list, but I'm going to do it anyway. I already made my list. I'm going to go for my notes. Sorry about that. So these are in no particular order, but I always thought that the big one, and I know I had a buddy of mine, The Quiet Man. He used to watch it every single year for St. Patrick's Day. That's the only reason I ended up watching it for the first time was my buddy, Mike, from my old job. He loved The Quiet Man, starring John Wayne, about a guy who moves back to Ireland. So David, I'm going to let you down so hard, man, with this list. I know it. It's going to disappoint you. I should have saved this for our show, actually, but it's already past St. Patrick's Day. So this is kind of the St. Patrick's Day show. But anyway, so you got to have the Quiet Man on the list, don't you? Let's see if we can make this background nice. Let's see who else is here. Aaron Clicks here. What's up? John Doe Juggalo's here. What's up, buddy? Make sure you guys are subscribing to John Doe Juggalo's channel. Next up, Kneecap. I saw this for the first time earlier this year. I believe this was Mr. Smelly Potatoes director review 1 month. Now the Bankroll member review. But he asked me to watch this one. I actually told David about it. It takes place right where he lives, and I think he enjoyed it as well. I really enjoyed this movie, and it's really just about this group, real group, Kneecap, who come from Northern Ireland, and how they take pride in the actual Irish language, and they want to keep it alive because it's essentially being oppressed there. And that's what the movie's about. They play themselves in it, but there's some great actors in it, including Michael Fassbender, who is always so good. And if I can ever recommend you guys a good Michael Fassbender movie, Steve Jobs, it's phenomenal. It just kind of came and went. I believe Aaron Sorkin did the screenplay on that, which explains why it's got that, quick dialogue, smart dialogue. Jeff Daniels is really good in it as well, but I could always recommend that. So if you've never seen it, got the green screen here, perfect for this exact scenario. And next up, I got Belfast. I didn't 100% love this movie, but I also think it's one movie you probably, if you're going to watch it, St. Patrick's Day seems like the right time of year. Kenneth Branagh directed this one, almost won Best Picture that year. Thought this was pretty good. This came out around a time where we were getting a lot of these directors kind of making movies about like their childhood. I think this was a year after Roma. Just kind of felt like it was the hot thing to do for directors. They were exploring their past. They become more personal stories. Thought Belfast was pretty good though. In a way, Halloween 3 is a St. Patrick's Day film with the mask company being Silver Shamrock. It's all I needed to hear. Halloween 3 makes the list. I thought about it, but I thought, can I do that with the title being Halloween 3? But because I didn't bring it up and you said it, I'm counting it. Halloween 3 counts. I mean, Silver Shamrock mask. You can't, it does tie in, but I just thought it's Halloween 3, the movie, and Halloween, the holiday, is a big part of it. And Rico Gomez said, just popping in real quick, what do you think of the reason for these Paramount 4K sales like the Zaz collection for $28? Is it $28? That's the one you sent me the email this morning, Rico, and I didn't check it out. I responded, but I didn't see your response. Been a busy day at work. But buddy, yeah, so if that's in there for $28, I'm not too sure why they're selling it. It could just be maybe Paramount is doing something with their physical media. Maybe they're not going to be in it as much anymore. I thought that their physical media releases have been some of the laziest out of all the companies, if I'm being honest with you guys. That's actually, I didn't even pick up the Zaz collection because I already had the Naked Gun, and I was like, I don't really want what was ever the third movie in that collection. I know it was the Val Kilmer film. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head. But I want an Airplane. I don't want the Naked Gun again. Now, given that's a sweet deal, $28. So Paramount 50% off sale at Barnes and Noble. That's what I'm talking about. If you guys don't know, head over there if you're looking to get some Paramount 4K Blu-rays. I think I'm gonna grab that Zaz collection. $28 is an absolute steal. Again, I would have preferred Airplane on its own because I have the Naked Gun 4K Blu-ray, but that's an absolute steal. John Doe Juggalo said, let me put this on here because this is really funny and I completely agree. Any reason to watch Halloween 3 sounds good to me. Completely agree. It's definitely kind of cheating, admittedly, but who cares, right? It's true. It's my list. I could say whatever I want. It's I guess that's how it goes, right? What did Aaron Clay? That's what I'm saying. Okay, good. But anyway, let's continue. That's true, Shamrock Balls. I can never disagree with Shamrock. Halloween does originate from Ireland. I actually did not know that. I didn't know. They probably said it in Halloween 3, and I probably thought they were lying because Halloween 3 is obviously not telling the truth. It's not based on fact. I thought most of the movie. Anyway, next up, The Banshees of Inisherin. This takes place in Ireland. One of the most dark comedies I ever saw. I mean, the guy's cutting his fingers off. Who's that? Brendan Gleeson in that movie. He's great. Him and Colin Farrell. I love that movie, by the way. Was it Colin Farrell? I haven't seen that movie since I saw it in theaters. I really enjoyed that though. But it takes place in Ireland in like the early 1920s, right as like the war is going on as well. It's just going on in the background. It's pretty funny. They never bring it up. It's just going on there. So I think the movie's supposed to be an allegory for the war itself. And I just thought the movie was hysterical. Martin McDonagh does make these great dark comedies. His best film was In Bruges. I actually has a good Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray if you've never seen it. But Seven Psychopaths is right behind it. The one that got the most acclaim was 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. I saw that once, thought it was good. I was glad that Sam Rockwell won his Academy Award. The guy deserved it. I love Sam Rockwell. He's always good. But I feel like people don't even remember that he won that Academy Award. You know, I thought that was going to piggyback into more roles, but it actually didn't, which kind of sucks because I love Sam Rockwell and I would love to see more of him. Irish War of Independence, or it may be the Civil War. Actually, I haven't seen it. LOL. Banshees of Inisherin is good, David. You should check it out. I believe the movie takes place in 1923. If I'm correct, so whatever war was going on then. I think you were correct the first time with the Irish War of Independence, but you know, I'm not 100% sure of that. Next up for my Disney movie, I'm sure people grew up in the 1990s, remember some 90s Disney Channel exclusive movies or Disney Channel original movies, whatever the hell they called them. Got to go with Luck of the Irish, right? Of course, we're going to talk about Luck of the Irish. Yeah, that's the Civil War, David said. Okay, cool. Sam Rockwell was great in Moon. That movie's underrated too. Aaron, I could not agree with you more. Moon is actually my favorite Sam Rockwell performance. That movie is crazy underrated. Love that movie. And actually, I thought about it recently after seeing Mickey 17. Next up, I got The Departed. This kind of illustrates more of like the American way of thinking when it comes to St. Patrick's Day. You know, this is a Boston movie. A lot of Irish Americans live up in Boston, you know, up here in the Northeast. A lot of people who came over here from Ireland through Ellis Island, they ended up here in the Northeast. That's actually how my Irish half blood came over here. Same thing with my Italian blood. They actually came over here the same way, almost at the exact same time. But, you know, obviously one's Irish, one's Italian. But they came over here, and I think this kind of illustrates more of that. Like, if you're going to watch The Departed, I feel like St. Patrick's Day is a good way to go. And, of course, they got, what's that band? Always forgetting the name of the band, but I can't remember anymore, which is crazy. But that band, they play every year up in Boston for St. Patrick's Day. So I just got back from watching Mickey 17, Mr. Smelly Potato said. I actually reviewed that here on the channel today, so I'm glad you saw the movie before the review. What'd you think of it? Let me know in the chat. I'm curious to see what you thought of it, Mr. Smelly Potato. See if we lined up on it, because I thought it was pretty good. Didn't 100% love it, but I thought it was pretty good. David said Dropkick Murphys. Yep, that's it. So, yeah, it's a St. Patrick's Day tradition. I think it's still going on where the Dropkick Murphys play up in Boston every St. Patrick's Day. And they get they get two, I think, songs in the movie, which is pretty cool. Dropkick Murphys was the right one, actually. I was thinking of it. So, yeah, thank you anyway, Aaron. I appreciate that one too, buddy, for the help. Next up, this is one, I don't know if anyone remembers this movie, but this is a movie I used to watch like before school. They were kind of playing it on HBO. And I used to watch it like I just watched bits and pieces of it. I don't think I've ever sat down and watched this movie, but again, it's a movie that takes place in Boston, playing a Boston Celtic, Damon Wayans, and that movie is Celtic Pride. Do you guys remember this movie? Dan Aykroyd's in it as well. Celtic Pride, it's not the greatest movie, but I have this weird connection to it where I'll never forget the movie. Damon Wayans playing another professional athlete, just like he does in The Last Boy Scout. This time he plays for the Utah Jazz, I believe. And I just don't know if people remember that movie, but I'll never forget it just because of always watching it. I love Jack wearing the Irish shirt in The Departed. What do you think of his accent in that Boston accent that he's doing? Jack, I feel like he's kind of doing his own thing, and it just kind of works in The Departed. It might not be like, you know, it's not an Oscar-winning performance. It's very over the top. She felt funny. Yeah, he's kind of the comedic gold of the movie. Like everyone else, like that's honestly my favorite Matt Damon performance because he's scary as hell in it. That's the only time he ever like he is the rat. He like the way he's like swarmy and just doing what's best for him throughout the entire film. It just makes you hate him, and he does such a good job. Mr. Smelly Potato said, I feel the same. I thought it was good. Yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. Like obviously Parasite's his last film, so that won Best Picture. It's hard to follow up a Best Picture winner. But I thought he did a decent enough job in this one. But it's the second act for me. I really love the first half of the movie, kind of moving along at a quick rate. I thought that Robert Pattinson did a phenomenal job. I just think that they started a couple of great ideas in the second act and then just kind of forgot about them, or they kind of like tied it up quickly instead of like giving it the proper conclusion, I thought. But the movie itself still came off pretty good. I know Actress of Movies said in her review that she didn't love that one that at all. And I kind of agree with her about her opinion of Mark Ruffalo in the movie. Thought he was just, I don't know, didn't like his performance. Found it to be distracting. Damon and Wahlberg are great in it. Yeah. Okay, that was who the other one was. Yeah, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg has that iconic role. There were actually, I remember rumors of a sequel surrounding his character. And what did Mr. Smelly Potato say next? I used to watch Celtic Pride all the time, LOL. I remember the Larry the Bird scene. Yeah, they basically kidnap, and I'm gonna spoil the ending here just because I'm a huge Jets fan, but they basically kidnap Damon Wayans so that the Celtics win the title, and which is crazy because the Celtics always win the title. Why do they need another one? But God forbid they lose every once in a while. I'm a Knicks fan, guys. Everything with New York, my teams always lose. So God forbid they ever lose the title. But then at the end of the movie, they end up kidnapping, I think it was Drew Bledsoe, one of the Patriots quarterbacks or cornerbacks. I can't remember who it was, but they end up doing that, which so that they don't win the Super Bowl or whatever the hell it was. The Patriots win the Super Bowl. I just thought the ending was funny. You think that Jack should have been nominated for The Departed? Really? I love his performance, but I just feel like that's Jack being Jack. Like that feels like that's more of like a looser role for him. I'm not saying it's not a committed role. I'm just saying I don't know if I would award him necessarily for that. Next up, I got Leprechaun. Got to go with the Leprechaun franchise. I know that's ridiculous, and it's probably a spit in the face of St. Patrick's Day, but it's also a Leprechaun. This one, the next couple ones are kind of like loose St. Patrick's Day movies, like Ladder 49. That has a great St. Patrick's Day scene in the movie. The movie itself, I've always really enjoyed it, even though I feel like John Travolta's performance is not the greatest. He gets me, he does his job good enough, but Joaquin Phoenix is a standout. But it's a scene in the movie, St. Patrick's Day, where Joaquin Phoenix's wife gets pregnant. And they're just surprised because they're like, "Oh, why aren't you drinking? You have to. It's St. Patty's." And then she says, and then that's when it's like, "Oh, you're pregnant." The scene sticks out to me just from a moment in time. What's up, playa? Oh, guys, look who it is. Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. What's up, buddy? Frank's here. Frank's always, you make sure you guys are subscribing to Frank's channels. Frank's the best. Next week, I might not have a live show here on this channel, but I'll be live over on Frank's channel. So make sure you're subscribed to him. R.I.P. City. Rip City, baby. Fucking Frank and his Oregon teams. Picks the 49ers, too. I don't know why he doesn't pick the Seahawks, but he picks the 49ers. And his Ducks let me down last year. Let me down hard. Next up, I also have The Long Good Friday. Now, this is obviously an Easter movie, not a... It's not one you would watch over St. Patrick's Day, but I mean, we're talking about the IRA here in this movie. It's a big part of it. So, and also Pierce Bronson, and it's his first movie, gets one line. I think it's a St. Patrick's Day. And then, of course, another one that I just think is springtime. St. Patrick's Day always feels like the start of spring. The James Bond franchise, there's 2 times of the year you can watch it. You can watch it around Thanksgiving, or you can watch it in the springtime. And I'm going to go with the springtime on this one. And I'm going to say the James Bond franchise is one you should be watching every single year over there around St. Patrick's Day, Easter, just March and April. Make sure you're watching the James Bond franchise, and I promise you won't be let down. Laugh out loud, Re49. What's up, Frank? Who else is here? Rebecca. What's up, Rebecca? Nice to see you. Glad that you're popping in as well. Yeah, got a few people here. Glad to see everyone's here enjoying the show. And that was my top 10 St. Patrick's Day movies. So thank you for that question. Really appreciate it. Oh, you know what, Rico? You're right. That is during St. Patrick's Day, and it's ridiculous that I completely forgot about it because I was just literally talking to David about this earlier in the week where we filmed our upcoming Rocky 2 video, and I was talking to him about like what we do here around St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, oh, you could see in Chicago where they dye the River Green, and they got that great line in the movie. If they could dye the River Green around St. Patrick's Day, why can't they dye it blue the rest of the year? Completely forgot that movie literally does take place during the St. Patrick's Day parade. Funny enough, there's a big St. Patrick's Day parade that happens right here on Long Island, right by my job. So next week I work a half day because they shut down the road that I actually work on. Yes, spring is good for Bond. I stopped midway through my last time watching that, but with my new setup, I'll be able to focus on the Bond movies, their picture quality on the better setup. Yeah, I don't know if you want to wait because the rumor is that the Sean Connery Bond films are going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray, I believe, in June. I'm actually probably going to watch some of my just personal favorite Bond movies this springtime. It's been a while since I've done the Dalton Bonds. I'm really in a Dalton Bond kind of mood. And GoldenEye, it's been probably like 3 years for me on that one, which is also one of my favorites. Have you seen The Devil's Own? The rough Irish accent by Pitt? No, I haven't. Brad Pitt has a career of some bad accents. What's it? The Cockney accent in Snatch. I know people complain about that one. At least that one's entertaining. And let's do Frank's ex-wife's question from earlier in the video, where Frank's ex-wife said, if you could, would I still watch movies if I would lose 2 hours at the end of my life? So if every movie I watched, I end up taking 2 hours off the end of my life, would I stop watching movies knowing that? No, I would not. I love movies. Movies are my favorite thing in life. So there's no reason for me to ever stop watching movies. Not really necessarily a scenario, although it's crazy because I don't have the greatest of eyes. And there's a chance that towards the end of my life, I go completely blind. That would be ironic, wouldn't it? Nah, that's the way she goes sometimes, though. So if that happens, it happens. I'm just hoping I have just enough vision, even if I have to get it like right up to my face. But hey, it is what it is, isn't it? But yeah, that's a would I still do that? Absolutely, Frank's ex-wife. And again, it's funny. Frank's in the chat and Frank's ex-wife. But yeah. And the name of the father, which I believe you've been telling me for a long time, Frank, I should be David, I should be watching. I have to say, I haven't seen My Left Foot or Seabiscuit, but I think Irish movies I like more historical. My favorites are Michael Collins, The Wind That Shakes, The Barley, Bloody Sunday, and Hunger. See, this is why I should have had David on to do this question, because he's obviously going to know more of the Irish movies, where I'm coming at it from an American point of view, which, like I told you guys, and if you live here in America, which I know the chat's kind of mixed between Americans, UK, Ireland, and I'm sure there's other people in there as well, celebrate the holiday differently. So where I'm coming from, it's like kind of movies that I would watch around that holiday instead of movies that David, I'm sure, watches or celebrates his actual home country. Where here it's not my home country. John, Brad Pitt's playing an Irish gypsy in Snatch. It's just ridiculous, but whatever. I just watched the movie actually yesterday. Kevin Kruger, I don't know if he's here in the chat or watched on the replay, but his movie of the month for being a channel director was for me to watch the movie Thinner, and that has a gypsy as well, played by the guy, the Greek guy. I always forget his name. I think it's actually Michael Constantine, but that guy from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and also one of my favorite Michael Keaton movies, My Life, is in it. And it's funny because his voice is just so distinct despite all those prosthetics. Aaron Clark, at least if you were to go blind, at least you could still hear movies. And if they'd ones you've seen before, you could still recall the visuals in your mind. And that's actually 100% true. There's so many movies I'll just put on before I go to bed, and I'll just listen to the scenes. Like Batman 89. That's a movie, like I said last week, that's a comfort movie for me. I've seen it so many times. I could just listen to it. I've seen it so many times. I could see it in my head. I'm good at least visualizing things, so I won't lose that completely, which thank God, because I need movies in my life. I can't live without them. I love Thinner, Shamrock Balls. Well, I'm not going to spoil my review here on the channel. I'd never seen it before. That was my first time seeing Thinner. But if anyone knows my kind of style of movies, and I think Kevin does, even if the movie is over-exaggerated and over the top and just absolutely ridiculous, I like those kind of movies. So it kind of works. He played RoboCop in RoboCop 3. Yeah, the RoboCop that I hate. I still hate it more than the remake. What am I saying? What elementary school or middle school book do you want a new movie for? I'd like to see the what was it? The K made where they were on this isle or an island, etc. Oh, that'd be interesting. I actually don't know what kind of childhood books. I didn't read that many like big ones. They already made Curious George. The Catcher in the Rye I always felt like would get a better film than it actually got. I want to also make sure I answer Kevin's question, because this one's this one's a big one, at least for this week's show, because I got it all laid out here. Let me find it where it is. I always do this though. Kevin Kruger. You know what? While I look for it, let's do this question. This is a follow-up from last week. It was 021 OM6. Round 2, 1-versus-1 showdowns. Bruce Willis versus Sylvester Stallone. Bruce Willis, 110%. Sylvester Stallone, I love Sylvester to a point. He's not one of my favorites of all time, but I've always enjoyed his work. He's the guy from Rocky. I love Rambo, but he is not one of my favorites. If I was going to pick an actor over him, I'll always take, everyone knows my favorite of all time is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Arnold would always go over him. Tom Hanks versus Harrison Ford. Now, I don't know if people know this, and I honestly, ever since I've had this channel, things have changed. I would say that my favorite actor of all time has always been Tom Cruise. Not Tom Cruise, although Tom Cruise is one of my favorites. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has always been one of my favorites. I would always usually say he is my favorite actor of all time, but things have definitely changed for me on that front. And, maybe he's not my favorite all time, but as much as I love Harrison Ford, I would still probably, you know, I'm still going to take Tom Hanks. Matt Damon versus Tom Cruise. You just heard me ramble on about how much I love Tom Hanks and how much I love Tom Cruise. I mistook him. As much as I love Matt Damon, got to take Tom Cruise. Richard Gere versus Kevin Costner. Now, this is interesting because they are very similar actors. Like, I would say that they kind of fit into similar roles. So who would I take in this case? I would take, I'm going to go Kevin Costner. Overall, as much as I love Richard Gere, Kevin Costner's in more movies that I actually enjoy more. So let's, next one up. Anthony Hopkins versus Sean Connery. Sean Connery did the first set of Bond films. That's really tough. I don't know how you even picked that. Well, Anthony Hopkins. All right. Yeah, that's a little tougher than I thought, actually, because one's got to go, right? Keanu Reeves versus Nicolas Cage. As crazy as this is going to sound, I think I would take Nicolas Cage. And I love Keanu. I really do. Keanu's in so many movies that I've enjoyed so many times in my life, but Nicolas Cage is just always going for it. He's another guy who's got so many movies that I absolutely enjoy. I'm sure that one might be a little bit more constant. Put the wrong one up there. Found the question, guys. Samuel Jackson versus Denzel Washington. Denzel. Love Samuel, but I love Denzel just a little bit more. Denzel's also in a lot more iconic roles. As good as Samuel Jackson is, and yes, I mean, he's Jules. He's Ordell. He's one of the greatest actors ever, but you're putting him up against one of the greatest actors ever, if you know what I mean. Gene Hackman versus Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is one of my favorites of all time. Actors and movies, fun showdowns. Yes, this is a very fun. I love these. Ooh, who said this one? Princey Doobie Doobie Doo. Prince said, "Good morning from here, my friend. How was the chamber?" Ah, man, what an elimination chamber. We'll get back to that 1 second while I finish these showdowns, and I'll get into that. But Jack Nicholson, one of my favorite actors of all time, and I do absolutely love Gene Hackman, R.I.P., especially hearing how he passed away. That was really sad and very tragic. Did not expect to hear that. It's just really sad. So Gene Hackman versus Jack Nicholson. Love you, Gene, but Jack's Jack. Kevin Bacon versus Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's persona non grata, but he's still a great actor. Kevin Bacon, on the other hand, I think I've told this story here on the channel in the past, but Kevin Bacon, the first ever movie I ever saw him in was this movie called Sleepers. And he plays a prison guard for like a juvenile detention facility, and he plays the world's biggest piece of shit. I mean, this guy, the things he says to these kids and what he wants from them, it's the one of two movies he plays like a child predator, but this time he plays like an absolute monster, just the worst of the worst. And I always just looked at Kevin Costner as like a villain because of that, which might be crazy to hear. But that's just the way it goes sometimes, right? But next up, so Kevin Bacon I'm gonna go Kevin Spacey on that one, as much as I love Kevin Bacon. Ben Stiller versus Adam Sandler, which I heard these two are going to be in a movie this year together, so looking forward to that. Adam Sandler, believe it or not, Adam Sandler is one of those actors I grew up with. His sense of comedy is something that always very much relates to me. I've always enjoyed his work. He was my favorite part of the Academy Awards this past weekend. Him dressing with the gym shorts and just the sloppy hoodie. I mean, that's literally how I kind of dress. I'm not the most well-dressed kind of guy, I'm sure if you guys have noticed, but that's how it goes sometimes for me. I like to wear my hangout clothes, and unfortunately, that might not be what my wife enjoys because she wants me to get dressed up all the time, but I'm not a dress-up kind of guy. And related to the Elimination Chamber, you guys, I'm sure if you're wrestling fans, you saw what happened last week. I'm a duper Dan, man. Mozart's ghost here. What's up, Mozart? So yeah, last week at Elimination Chamber, the big thing coming out of it was John Cena won the Elimination Chamber, the chance to verse Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania in the main event of WrestleMania for the WWE Undisputed Championship. I think that's what they're calling it now. They change the name all the time. But we knew going in that Cody Rhodes had been offered by The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, to be his champion, for him to come in there and represent him, essentially bringing back the corporation angle from 1998. Are you looking forward to Happy Gilmore 2? I absolutely am. July 25th, I believe. But at the very end of this show, exactly, heel turn profile pick, baby. Yes. So continuing on for everyone who doesn't know. So The Rock gives Cody one last offer. And he says, "Hey, I want your soul." Essentially wants him to be the corporate champion. And what does Cody Rhodes say? He says, "Rock, go fuck yourself. And then, oh, crowd cheers. John Cena's right there in the ring because he just won the chamber. Goes to hug him. Camera's angle's perfect. They see the Rock and John Cena staring at each other. John Cena's got this look on his face, like, what? Why? He looks pissed off. The Rock does this with his fingers because I don't know why. I guess, signaling, hey, do it. Kicks him in the balls. I mean, like, I know what he's signaling, but just The Rock did it in such a weird way. Kicks him in the balls. Heel turn of the century. The biggest one since Bash at the Beach 1996 when Hulk Hogan turned his back on WCW and formed the NWO. But that's it. John Cena, the guy who no one ever thought would become a heel, became a heel. And to give you guys a little bit behind the scenes of my wrestling background, back in the day, I was not a big John Cena fan. In fact, kind of hated the guy just because I came out of the Attitude Era and, the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era, kind of like that. And then here came this guy who kind of represented like the kids, which I got and, makes much more sense to me now. But at the time, it was just like felt like it was getting shoved down my throat. Respect the hell out of the guy now. John Cena's also became a pretty good actor himself. But I really always want him to turn heel because I just got sick of the, hustle, loyalty, respect kind of deal. It just drove me nuts. So I couldn't take it anymore. Oh, Gavin Saylor's here. Thoughts on Captain America, Brave New World. Gavin, I'm gonna let you down. Still haven't seen it, buddy. I am so sorry. Cena is a heel. Wow, he was the ultimate company man. I think they said this is the longest face run ever. He's been a face since after WrestleMania 21 back in 2005. So basically 20 years as a baby face. The heel turn nobody ever saw coming. So yeah, I'm sorry, Gav. I know. It's just I've been backed up. I've got really like only time for one movie a week, and this week it was Mickey 17. I'll get to it though. I promise. At some point. Yeah. Hustle, cruelty, disrespect. Is his new slogan going to be, because his big slogan for John Cena is don't give up. So now that he's a heel, his slogan's going to be give up, right? It has to be. But yeah, so anyway, I want to get into this question. This is going to be one of our nominations for question of the week. Remove, where is it? Let's gotta remove this one, I guess. Add this one to the stage. This will be fun for you guys. Mozart Ghost Road. This is a funny one. I am better buying movies than watching them. It's a big problem. I don't even know where to start now. See, I won't really buy movies until I'm gonna watch them, which does cause me some problems because a lot of times I won't buy movies on a sale because I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this for like a year. So why do I even bother buying it right now? Like that Zaz collection, like it's on sale right now, but am I gonna actually watch it? If you guys watch my review, maybe. Actress movie. Marshawn Lynch for the T-role in a new A-Team movie. Absolutely. That's a great idea. Marshawn Lynch has shown me that he's actually committed to acting and he's pretty funny, which I think a lot of people do. He's like just naturally funny, but it's really cool to see him actually be as funny as he is. Are you going to answer my brother Solomon question? Movie Dude 1988 said, and yes, I am. I promised you I'd watch the movie after last week's show, last Saturday night. That was the first thing I did. And we are going to answer that question. Actually, let's do your question before we actually do the Blu-ray collection, because you've been waiting weeks for this one, I know. So to be fair, are you going to answer my brother's question on the Brothers Solomon? So he wants my thoughts on the Brothers Solomon. Yes. So the Brothers Solomon is a 2007 comedy that was directed by Bob Odenkirk. Bob Odenkirk of Better Call Saul fame, Breaking Bad fame as Saul Goodman. He's great in that. He came up mainly as a comedian. I think it was Mr. Show that he was on. But Bob Odenkirk now he's, nobody. He's Mr. All that kind of jazz. So basically Bob Odenkirk is now kind of a household name. But in 2007, I believe that's the year before Breaking Bad started, he really wasn't. But he directed this like slapstick comedy starring Will Arnett and Will Forte, which is another funny story. I always mistake Will Arnett and Will Forte's names. So it's pretty funny that they actually starred in a movie together. Now, I actually seen this years ago when this came out, mainly because I'm into these really like over-the-top ridiculous comedies. I love Will Forte. Will Forte is, I feel like, one of the most underrated comedic actors we've ever gotten. He was great on Saturday Night Live, and I've always said it. MacGruber is one of the most underrated comedies of all time. It is one of the. It's probably up to either that or Pop Star Never Stopping are the two most underrated comedies ever. But I love MacGruber, so I've always loved Will Forte. So he can almost do no wrong for me. Will Arnett is kind of hit or miss. But they star in this movie as two brothers, the brothers Solomon. They live together. Their father is Lee Majors, the $6 million man, and he's proud of him, loves him. They grew up like army brats, but like the only thing that he kind of feels a little bit of regret about is that he never got a grandkid. So these two idiots who can never get a girlfriend or anything, there's no way they'd be able to like willingly get somebody to like have their babies to give this guy a grandkid. Meanwhile, by the way, he's in a coma in their apartment. And Will Arnett has this thing where he's just terrible at hitting on women. Like he's like abrasive and makes them feel very uncomfortable. And at one point, he gets thrown out of the supermarket where he was trying to pick up chicks. And like his whole argument is that he can't be thrown out because he pays his taxes, which of course makes a lot of sense. If you pay your taxes, you should be allowed to go anywhere, right? Well, no, you can't. And then he gets back to the apartment, and Will Forte's like, "Really? They threw you out?" And he's like, "Did you make sure? Did you explain to them that you were up to date on your taxes?" Just absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, Kristen Wiig ended up becoming the person who's going to be the surrogate mother to one of their child, and of course, a bunch of shenanigans ensures throughout this movie. This is not the kind of comedy for everybody, but this is definitely a kind of comedy for me. When me and my wife watched it, we just had an absolute blast. I know not everybody's going to love this movie, so I can kind of recommend it. It's one thing also I noticed is that there's a joke in this movie that's also the same exact joke that's in MacGruber about like getting to, like, he's like, Will Forte has the exact same line, like, "I got there almost at the exact same time as you, if not a second before." Like he says the same line in MacGruber as he does in The Brother Solomon. But The Brother Solomon to me is absolutely hysterical. But if you're not into those absolutely dumb comedies, you might not like this one. I would say give it a skip. But for me, it worked, and I can definitely recommend The Brother Solomon. WWE 2K25 out now. Let me know how the island is on that. I'm interested. It's just been a long time since I played a video game. He is ripped and very strong. I like to see that. Yeah, it's impressive. Brother Solomon, that one was a bit of a struggle, but some funny moments. Yeah, I feel like actors in movies, I feel like you kind of have like the common mindset. Like if you look at what people said about that movie, they did not enjoy it at all. And I can understand why, but for me, it works. I just like those silly, dumb comedies. They're just always good. Like you turn off your brain and you have a good time with them, like Farley Brothers comedies. It's kind of just my sense of humor. I also like dry comedies as well, but I've always been a big fan of the Brothers Soul. Like I'm not a big fan, but I love those kind of comedies. Have you seen Let's Go to Prison with Will Arnett? Has the same type of comedy. Yes, that one I have. What's his name? Dax Shepard's the other one in that movie. Him and Will Arnett play cellmates. I remember the Fresca joke being like a good, funny running joke through that movie. But yeah, Let's Go to Prison and Employee of the Month. Like those were two Dax Shepard comedies that always ran on Comedy Central. And this going back, guys, there was a time where we had to watch movies on Comedy Central with commercials, and Let's Go to Prison was always on there. Another one I absolutely love from the same era, like 2006 to like 2010 era. So yeah, Mr. Smelly Potato, I also really enjoyed that movie. And those are the kind of comedies that kind of speak to me. Let's see. Remove this. How would you rank the box sets in your Blu-ray collection? So this is a pretty big one. Let's read Frank. John, what's some of your holy grail releases you'd want in your collection? My wife got me one of mine, which I'll be opening tomorrow morning for a belated B day. Ooh, so you're saving that for tomorrow morning for a belated. Oh, so you're gonna be opening it on your channel. Honestly, the one that I've always wanted in my collection that I've just never really been able to afford is the Ingmar Bergman collection from the Criterion collection. I know Ingmar Bergman's not everyone's favorite director, but I've always enjoyed his work, and I would have always loved that collection. I just never ever had that amount of money to spare. So one day I would love to get that. But now I'm also on the fence because well, Prince Doobie is saying hi to Frank. Frank's a good man. I'm glad you recognize Prince Doobie Doobie Doo, because how could you not? He'll see the 2025 is also hysterical. But yeah, Frank, my holy grail, I always wanted that. That was always my big thing. So one day, though, why you write Jay? One day I always wanted that Ingmar Bergman collection, but I've really gotten, for the most part, all my holy grail stuff. I've one thing I have to go back is to get the Lighthouse on 4K Blu-ray, because I bought the Blu-ray like an idiot by accident. Thought I was getting the 4K. But that Ingmar Bergman collection, one of these days. But like, how would I rank the box sets in my Blu-ray collection? So I got them all right here. Let's make sure you guys can see me and everything's crisp and clear, and you guys can hear me. So at the very bottom, only because I haven't watched it, is my Star Trek 4K Blu-ray collection. I think this is the first 4 films. So I watched the first one, the Star Trek the Motion Picture, and I that movie just bores me to absolute tears. 4K quality, surprisingly very good though. Was going to write something and hit send by accident. Damn it, Shamrock Balls. I don't like people playing in my chat like that. But yeah, Star Trek. Just I can't really give it a full review because I haven't fully watched it. So that's at the very bottom. This one's another one that I just don't really watch anymore, the Terminator collection. I really just keep this for 3 in Salvation, which I do like. This one's towards the bottom because of how horrible it is to open. I don't know if you guys know this one, but cool slipcase. But this thing, I'm not going to open it because it's impossible to put back together. But thank God Lethal Weapon is coming to 4K Blu-ray. Next one, just because the quality is not the greatest, but the Bourne 4K Blu-ray collection, pretty good, just not the greatest. Let's see. Let me check the chat real quick. Has the actor that should play Prince the Sailor Boxer been born yet, or no? That's a great question. I could see doing that. What's his name? Let me think about that because that's a good one. Jaws the limited box set is your holy grail, John. Could you imagine if they actually did that? A full box set for Jaws the Revenge? You would lose your mind. That's funny though. So next up, we got the Three Colors trilogy. Why is this so low? This is one of my favorite trilogies. Got it holding it upside down. One of my favorite trilogies of all time. At least it comes with the Blu-rays, but the 4K Blu-rays are not great. One of the most disappointing 4K Blu-rays ever released. But the trilogy itself is an all-timer. Krzysztof Kieslowski's masterpieces, in my opinion. Another one, why is it so low? The Jurassic Park 4Ks. First of all, just beautiful packaging. That's one thing I absolutely love. I love it actually with Universal. I know people don't really like these, and I don't like how the disc slides out of these, but I think people prefer like the 4K collection that came out last year where they have their individual boxes or the Steelbook collection. But the quality of these are pretty good, not the greatest. I actually have to go back. I haven't watched the Jurassic Park films. I'm gonna watch them this year because me and David have a show planned around them. So we'll talk about that. Mr. Coffee wrote, which I assume is a great. Do you watch movies in the morning? Mr. Coffee, that is my favorite time to watch movies. No joke, no lie to you at all. And I only get to do it one day a week, Tuesdays, which is my day off. Tuesday mornings, I like to wake up. Because I wake up like 6 a.m. I like to make a cup of coffee and I like to sit down and watch a movie. That's when I'm drinking my 5th cup of coffee of the day, my last one of the day. But I like my first cup in a dream scenario when I don't have to work again, which will never happen. I would love to just sit there and watch a movie with a cup of coffee every single morning. I think that's when your mind is at its freshest, is right there in the beginning of the day. So for me, it's always been the beginning of the day with a nice hot cup of coffee just to start your day. That and a nice 1.5, 2 hour movie, maybe not a 4 hour movie, but it's absolutely my favorite time of the day. And you just capture quiet and Hopper and the whole town, bloodline through, etc. Frank one using electric to stop Jaws. Yeah, that would be a masterpiece. Talking about Jaws. Tuesday is your only day off. Yeah, and honestly, I use that day off to do most of my YouTube work here because I get the whole day, so I don't really get a day off. But hey, that's life. Especially with everything costing what it does. But continuing on. I got Bad Boys 1 and 2 here on 4K Blu-ray. This is kind of like obsolete now because now there's 2 more of these on 4K Blu-ray, but this is pretty unique. You don't really get too many of these, so I thought I'd show that off. I like this kind of like, I've never seen another one like this. It's the only one in the collection. The 4K Blu-ray collection for the the Bill and Ted trilogy. Love these movies. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, not the greatest 4K Blu-ray, and the third movie is not just the greatest film, but the second one, the 4K Blu-ray, is great. The film itself has grown on me. Now, this one's another one of like mixed bag 4K Blu-rays. The Superman 4K Blu-ray collection. Superman the movies 4K Blu-ray is not that great. The Donner cut on 4K Blu-ray is really good. 3 and 4 are probably the best 4Ks, but 4 is not a great film. The Prophecy 4K Blu-ray collection. I just like how this does this. The pizza box kind of deal that's going on. Heard rumors that we're going to be finally going to get, I'm sure people are excited about this, TMNT, the 1990 version on 4K Blu-ray. Supposedly it's getting its new cut released in theaters in the summer, so we should expect the 4K before year's end. Don't want to get too excited, just in case. And then next up, I didn't forget this week like I did with the Creature of the Week, Kevin, but, here we are, the Universal Monsters 4K Blu-ray collections. I got the 2 that have come out. Don't know why they've stopped, though. Check the chat real quick, see what's going on here. Do you watch a movie every day no matter what? Yes. So the way I structure my days, because the way I like to live my life is I start my day usually by doing some YouTube work. I'm a very routine based kind of guy. It just works best with my mind. So I start my day with like YouTube work. Then I go to work at my regular job. I come home. I do some more YouTube work. I have dinner with my wife. And then we watch a movie and go to bed. So I watch a movie 7 days a week because a movie, like I've said a million times, I don't want to bore you guys, my favorite thing in the world. So every day I at least make sure that I go to bed with, my favorite thing in the world. I structure my life like that. Very simple. It just makes things easier. And then my day off, maybe I'll watch a couple more movies or, go see family, or that's the day me and David record. So Tuesdays also work out. I'm usually watching movies Tuesdays morning because that's my day off too. See, Mr. Smelly Potato. So in a different part of the world, I'm watching a movie Tuesday morning, just like you. This week actually might be your director's, bankroll member review. I was saving that for Tuesday morning because, again, with the subtitles of that movie, I actually watch it here in the office. So I'll sit here in this chair and I'll have a cup of coffee Tuesday morning and probably watch your director's bankroll. I'll never get used to it. Psycho Arrow box set has to be in there. We're getting there, buddy. We're getting there. You run a network. Moose do you hire? We'll get to this one in a second because this is a good question. Ackerson Movies. So I hired Jack from Broadcast News too. Broadcast News is great. So next up, now again, this is kind of obsolete, although this might be the best version of this at this point. The Fast and Furious 4K Blu-ray collection. Now this only goes up to 8. We reviewed, me and Matt, when we were still doing the channel together, all of the Fast and Furious movies on 4K Blu-ray at the time in anticipation of Fast X, which, this franchise has grown on me. It's easy to make fun of, but if you understand what these movies are, you kind of understand, you kind of can, buy in. Next up, now these are just on Blu-ray, but they're still one of the best things that Criterion has ever released. The Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. Ethan Hawke and what's her name, Julie Dupas. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Richard Linklater's masterful trilogy. Every 9 years apart, just a walk and talk movie, but it works perfectly. And this is, of course, in the nice boxes, the nice digibooks, very similar to the Three Colors trilogy. Now, I actually think that the Blu-ray box set for the Dark Knight trilogy is nicer than the 4K Blu-ray box set that's come out. Now, given this has been re-released in steelbooks, and I think it even had a re-release last year with new box designs, but the one I have, I still really like this Blu-ray box set, and I used to even have the DVD box set because I do still love the Dark Knight trilogy, even though I'll say it a millionth time that I've cooled a lot of the Dark Knight, despite, having the Dark Knight. I don't know if you guys could ever see it, but I have the Dark Knight tattoo right there on my wrist. So everyone knows I'm a Dark Knight fan, or at least of the Nolan trilogy. Next up, this is a great 4K collection, the Conan Chronicles. So, the first 2 movies that came out in the Conan, not the remakes, the original one starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is just, I love these 2 movies. They're great. They're fantastic. They're entertaining as hell. Barbarian is way better than Destroyer, though. But great Arrow 4K Blu-rays, by the way. I just have to point that out. Mozart Ghost says the first Fast and Furious was genuinely good. That's still my favorite in the franchise. The only problem with that is it's just Point Break. It's literally the same plot as Point Break. It's the biggest flaw of the Fast and Furious is that there's a better version directed by Catherine Bigelow that came out in 1991 that stars Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, who are much better actors than Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, despite the fact, R.I.P. Paul Walker. Now, next up, and now this is the not the best version of this, but the Indiana Jones 4K Blu-ray collection. Look, it's got this fold in it. It's been like that since day one. They really went lazy on this Paramount when it comes to these steel books. I can't justify rebuying these steel books in the proper way that they have those black 4K steel books out. So I'm kind of stuck with these white 4K steel books until I get some, extra money sometime down the line. But These are all great 4K Blu-rays. Again, it's missing the fifth film, so eventually I'm sure it'll be a 5-film 4K Blu-ray Steelbook collection. Even though I don't really love Dial of Destiny, I still think that the original trilogy of movies are all masterpieces and all some of the best films that you could watch from the 1980s. I actually missed the little subsection here. So these all would have been way lower, but we'll just talk about them real quick. Now, this is just ridiculous. I'm forced to have the 2 Ring sequels in here. So this would have been very, very low just because the Ring 4K Blu-ray is really good, but the Ring 2 is one of the worst movies ever made, and Rings isn't too far behind. I only keep this Chucky box set just because it has the movies that I don't want on 4K Blu-ray on Blu-ray. And I keep this Batman Anthology Blu-ray set, which because I just like it. And this is where I keep Batman and Robin because Batman and Robin has never been worthy of a 4K Blu-ray. I know that's going to drive some people nuts, by the way. And then I also have this Pirates of the Caribbean Blu-ray box set. And now we're getting into like the big ones, some of my favorite ones. So consider those ones I just did honorable mentions, but somebody already brought it up, David, and that was the Psycho 4K Blu-ray box set, which is tremendous. And this really grew on me because I remember when I first saw this and I saw the shower, I was like, oh my God, that looks so bad. And then I got it home. And then, it pops up like this and it looks beautiful because you get all the 4K Blu-rays. So like that, all nice and pretty. And then they're all nice 4K Blu-rays as well. So yeah, this one's one of my favorites. I cherish this one. And to think, without imports, and we'll get to a question about that in a little bit, without that, we wouldn't be able to even have that here in the United States because there was only a UK release. Ring 2 is so bad, said Frank. Yeah, Ring 2 is god awful. I hate the Ring 2. I really do. Nice pack on that Batman. No DC logo. Yeah, that is true. That is true. They didn't ruin it with that. Cycle Collection is gorgeous. Way better in person. Yeah, pictures really don't do that one justice. I truly did. I don't know what they were doing with their original like layout of the background there for when they first premiered it to the world. I just thought it looked very, very ugly. And then I saw it at home and yeah, it's one of my favorites. So let's continue on down the road again. Next up. So these are my favorites. Now, even though I keep upgrading these to 4K Blu-ray, I'll always be appreciative of the fact that we got the entire Friday the 13th 12-film collection from Scream Factory all those years ago, where you have all of them in one big pack. Some of these are upgrades, some of them are not. We're getting, Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell on 4K Blu-ray from Arrow Video pretty soon, and I love those movies, so I'm happy to upgrade those. But we still have this nice uniform packaging here with the entire collection in this big hard box, and I'll always be grateful for this. Especially since it made those people selling their other ones on the black market on eBay, jacking up that metal tin one was ridiculous. I'm glad that we got that one to replace it. Oh man, don't get me started with the international releases. I got a shit ton. Yeah, so I know you do, buddy, and they're amazing. I just love it. I just bought the Dark and Wicked 4K. It's a German release. Yeah, and that's the thing is like the German releases, like Mississippi Burning has its German release on 4K Blu-ray. I'm like, I've been waiting for a US release of this, and it's been like a year. And I'm like, are we gonna ever get that? I don't know. So I don't know if I should just pull the trigger on it. I watched Mississippi Burning's Blu-ray the other day. It's not a great Blu-ray. Kino Lorber Blu-ray. It needs an upgrade. Oh, see, I'm moving the light around. Trying to show you guys that off. And that's what this is right here. It's my light. This one's a big one for me. This is actually a Christmas gift 2 years ago, I think, for my wife. I actually started reviewing this here on the channel. And I stopped at like film 8. So there's still some of these. Like I want to review Schenectady, New York, but opens up like this. This is the Sony Pictures 4K collection that came out a few years ago. This is a great 4K Blu-ray collection because this is Sony. All these 4K Blu-rays are tremendous. They're not everyone's cup of tea, but some of these movies are just incredible. Like for me, Orlando, I never saw that movie before until I got this 4K collection. I love that movie now. So many great movies. The Devil's Backbone you get in this 4K Blu-ray collection directed by Guillermo del Toro. So this is also one of my favorites. Not looking forward to putting all this back after. Frank, I know you know how I feel. But now it's a tie for first place between all of the Columbia Classics 4K Blu-ray collections, and I'll show them all off. I'll show them. So that's one. You'll actually see a review out of this one pretty soon with Stripes coming to 4K Blu-ray, but here's volume 2. And these are just, I love what they do here. Like, these magnetic cases, they all got their own individual slip covers. Right. 3, which I do think is the worst of them. Not in quality, though. Volume 4, one of the best. And then volume 5, the most recent one. I love these. It's the attention to detail for me with those. They're, the boxes, all the box art is great. The packaging is like top of the line. Everything works. You don't have to worry about anything in there. Like, they give you all of the extras. They give you a pack-in Blu-ray, a slip cover just for these, so it does make it feel a little bit exclusive. I just wish that all those movies were released out to the world for everyone and they weren't locked behind that paywall, because those are really expensive. So I had to get those. Who do you think would put on Mississippi Burning for US? Maybe Criterion. Criterion would make sense, or Kino, because Kino actually did the US version before. So I think they would actually work out. Love the Columbia Classic. I screwed up and didn't start with the first one. It's okay. I mean, I know that one's really expensive right now on the resale, but I was sold immediately just because of Lawrence of Arabia was in there, Jerry Maguire was in there, and A League of Their Own. Like, some movies that I just like, I have to see that on 4K Blu-ray. And I was like, okay, I don't know, and everything. I'm trying to remember. Gandhi's another one that just I had to get them, and then I wanted to keep up. Got 2 the next year, and then 3, I just couldn't justify the original price, even though that was the cheapest now. And then once we got to 4 and 5, I was like, so I bought 3, 4, and 5 actually with Affirm, which is like Amazon's, like, you could pay in installments, makes it just a little bit easier. I love that we could do that now. Just makes it paying over time just a little bit easier. Makes it easier on our collectors. Volume 1 really set the volume so high, but they are all wonderful. Yeah, Volume 1 had the best 6-movie collection, and 3, I would say, had the weakest. And then I think 4 and 5 have been like pretty even. Like 2, 4, and 5, I think, are all like really good. And just 1's the best, and 5's like 3's clearly the worst. But either way, or like the quality is good. It's just some of the films you don't necessarily love to have in your collection, but hey, they're just really nice. Hard Rocker said, do you think we'll ever have an upgrade to movies in 8K in the near future? And this is a great question. And I don't think we'll ever get 8K on physical media. I think 4K Blu-ray is where this all ends for us guys, just because right now we have a hard time with 4K Blu-ray as far as it's selling in the market. It takes up, if you ever see those charts, the pie charts that they'll share showing like physical media sales for like the week before, usually DVD still takes up the most of the market because most people still just have like a DVD player sitting on their shelf. Like, Blu-ray players have been around since, like, I want to say 05. Like, they came with the PS3 in 2006. So you would think like the PlayStation 2 would have led to the same thing with the PlayStation 3, but it didn't really. Blu-rays were popular, and they're still the second most popular format. But then once 4K Blu-ray came out, that's kind of also at the same time that streaming took off. At the same time, Netflix became much more than just a DVD service, so they were in physical media. They kind of turned their back on it. Once that all happened, that just led to physical media sales just declining. Even though we had this big, beautiful new format with these big, beautiful new TVs, we had just gotten the HD format in like 2007, where we got these beautiful TVs. And then it just kind of fell apart with streaming service. So physical media kind of became a lot more niche like it is now. So it's already very hard to justify the 4K Blu-ray format. Right now, it really has become very niche, very popular in a sub-market very similar to vinyl. I'd still say it's more popular than vinyl, but because of that, I can't imagine us ever getting the 8K format. Look how long 8K TVs have been around. They've been around for a few years. There's just nothing to put on them. It's already hard to get like live sports on 4K. So imagine trying to that come at 8K, it'll be like another 10 years. So it's just not going to happen, in my opinion, in the near future. It's too big of an investment. So I do think that this is the end for us. And that's a good point, too. Our eyes can only see so much. The big selling point for 4K Blu-ray isn't necessarily, the picture becoming sharper because we've increased the pixels to the, 4K. No, the big selling point, I think, has been HDR and Dolby Vision, like that high dynamic range. I think that's been what really has been the selling point of the 4K Blu-ray format. combined with like OLED TVs. When you put those together, and the audio is a big part of this too, but we did have like Atmos tracks that could be played on Blu-ray. But the big selling point is that HDR and Dolby Vision, hitting those deep blacks and the colors, the bigger color gamut. That I think is the biggest part. When they are able to use that to its best of ability, that's when the 4K Blu-ray format is at its best, in my opinion. I just don't know how we can get something similar to that jumping to 8K. If we're just increasing the resolution, like you said, our eyes can only see so much. You're not going to even see a big difference from going 4K to 8K because you're not going to pick it up. So unless there's like some kind of change in the technology, I cannot see any reason to justify it ever coming to 4K Blu-ray. And that's crazy that is locked behind a paywall, which is unbelievable. 4K is the end of the road for me. I'll take it as far as it can go. Yeah, like people still have just Blu-ray collections, and I commend those people. Any way to collect movies. For me, it's mostly about the film preservation. I just want to make sure I have my favorite films in the best format possible. And sometimes that is Blu-ray. Like I was talking earlier to you guys about that action collection that has Last Man Standing and The Last Boy Scout, like a Bruce Willis collection. That Blu-ray on my OLED with my Panasonic 820 is surprisingly very, very, very good. So like I don't necessarily see a reason to upgrade to 4K Blu-ray. Actors and movies say, had the best movies ever been made already, or will there be some amazing movies ahead that enter the top 10 list, etc.? I don't think I've had a movie actually enter my top 10 all time. That's a modern. I don't even know what the most modern film is, but it's not many. I definitely prefer movies from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s over like most films that have come out since 2000. Given there's been some incredible films, but most movies that even come out today in like the top 2020 in the 2020s, like I don't necessarily fall in love with these movies. I truly love Babylon. Like that was one that came out a couple years ago that I've fallen in love with, the Ty West trilogy. But all my favorite movies for the most part came out like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I can't imagine a all-time favorite slipping in there, but you never do know. The way the world works, things do change. But with the way films are now, I just always feel like that they don't have the same emotional sticking points that films had back in the day. I feel like a lot of them have a message to sell you on first, and then the actual enjoyment factor comes second. I'm all for a good message, but the movies themselves can still be great, and I feel like we're kind of missing that nowadays. Like The Brutalist was a fantastic film from last year, and I think that movie finds a balance of like what a 70s film used to be, and I think that's a movie that I'll be going back to. Like Babylon felt very similar as well. So I don't know. I don't think we'll ever. It's hard to say. A director might come along and just blow my mind, and I might not see it even coming, and that becomes like one of my all-time favorite films. Do I expect it to come? It's also in the psychology of a human being. As you get older, you kind of go back, like that's where nostalgia, you have to be very careful, and nostalgia comes into play, because if you're nostalgic for something, you always want to run back to the things you love most. And that happens with music. You got to be careful, because you start to become that grumpy old man, like get off my lawn, like where you just like your old stuff, you go back to your old records and everything like that, where it's just that's the stuff you like. But you got to be careful, because you're not letting new art in. So I always make sure to at least say that I'll not say, at least go to the movies every week and see a new film, even if I'm not really too excited about it. I'll at least go there, try and see it. And, every once in a while, I'll see a great movie. Like, this past week, Mickey 17 was a good movie. Like, it's a movie you should go to the theaters and see. It's never going to make my top 10, might not even make my top 300, but hell, yeah, it's still something that I enjoyed my time with. I just don't know, me personally, I'll ever see a movie that slips into my top 10 again. We'll have to wait and see. I hope so. And Mozart Ghost brings up a great question here. Oppenheimer is close for me. Oppenheimer is a 10 out of 10 film. That one is definitely in my top 25 all time. Maybe no, it's not top 50 all time. But that one will get better on rewatch each and every time I see it, where it will crack into probably my top 15 all time. We'll have to wait and see. I do love that movie. Conan the Barbarian and Highlander 2 are my all-time favorite movies. I could see that based on your taste in movies, and those are great movies. The Highlander is fantastic. I love that movie. Oh, The Brothers Solomon is your favorite movie of all time. I can see then why you wanted me to check it out. Well, I appreciate you, because I really enjoyed that movie. The movie is fantastic. Had a blast watching it. My wife truly did love it as well. So we had a good time bonding over that. I think I told you guys that the big thing me and my wife always bond over is stupid, dumb comedies like that. So that was another one that was pretty big for us. We had a great time. Anytime you guys can give me a comedy recommendation, send it my way, just because my wife and me, that's what we bond over. Actress movie said Bill Murray says no to What About Bob? Definitely. Who do you cast instead? Oh my god, over Bob. Bill. I'm really bad at like casting what ifs, if you could believe that. Actress in movies just not my thing. I try, but I'm so bad at it. 4K is a must for large screens. I have always wanted a 100. It won't be long now. Well, aren't they selling those 100-inch screens at Costco, which you just know look terrible? You just know it. I was thinking 52, John. I can safely say 50. Yeah, like in the 50s, probably where Oppenheimer belongs. Totally agree about modern movies making my films list. 80s and 70s are also my favorite decades, with some 90s and even back to 40s. No, I have some movies from the 40s and 50s. I mean, Citizen Kane is one of my all-time favorite movies as well, and that came out in 1942. So like there are some classic. I just really prefer a classic film. I just think, I mean, you hear me and David talk on our show. If you guys check that out all the time about how we prefer like the old practical effects, the practical sets. That's why Nosferatu kind of like hurts a little bit, me not loving that movie, because it does all the things I complain about modern movies not doing. It literally did everything I ask a film to do. Anything I bitch and moan about, the movie did, and I still didn't like it. So it's just it missed it on the story end part for me, but it did everything else so well. Pop and Fresh, I'm glad you're here because I'm about to do your question. So I'm glad. 1917 Dune 2 easily in my top 10. 1917 is one I've been looking to get the 4K Blu-ray, give it a rewatch. That is a tremendously made movie. Another one, Roger Deakins shot the hell out of that. What's your favorite Reese Witherspoon performance? We'll do that in a second. So Poppin' Fresh, loving the show, bro. Thanks, man. I appreciate you popping in. So let's do your question, because I think this one is pretty important. And I know this one might be this one's gonna be a little bit of a tough sell, I'm sure, because I know this one could cause a ruckus, but I do think it's a little bit important. So he said, quickly, if not too late, about the Saturday live show questions, how it is. Do you think the upcoming tariffs in April will drastically increase prices of the already overpriced physical media Blu-ray and 4K disc market eventually slow down production of physical media because of the high overhead cost that will be in place on manufacturing cost for the hold on a second. I'm going to take this off. For the boutique labels globally going forward. So yes, I think 100% this is a great question we have to talk about, because those tariffs do go into place going forward. Some have already gone into place, like with Canada, I believe. Mexico, I think, got a 1 month delay, and then obviously automakers also got a delay. So what exactly is the tariff? Funny enough, in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, they explain tariffs, and a tariff is essentially just a tax. You just charge a little bit of extra money on goods going in, going out kind of deal. So like I think there's like a 25% tax on goods coming in from China. So how is this going to affect us as buyers in the market, as physical media collectors? Now, these tariffs obviously are going to affect the United States, but and people in Canada. Other people already have to deal with really high import prices. Like people in Denmark, I know, who watch the channel, have told me that, us complaining all the time about prices is a little stupid, because we actually get pretty lucky here in comparison to other countries. So when I complain sometimes, I feel a little stupid, but the physical media prices here in the United States have definitely gone up. In the UK, they've definitely gone up and gotten pretty out of hand. And I worry that it's all with these tariffs, it's only going to get worse, because tariffs by design are supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to bring in more money for the country. We have a debt. To pay off the debt, you charge more money for goods going in and out. And the assumption is that the company or the country will pay those tariffs, and the goods themselves won't go up in price. But as we know, as consumers, think of it as a streaming service. Netflix decides to pay $1 billion to acquire WWE Raw. Do you think that $1 billion came from someone at Netflix's pocket or from their bank account? No, they charged it, and they know over time they will slowly increase the prices from their consumers, and that will cover the overhead costs for a movie like that, or that new Russo brothers movie, which I'm forgetting the name, that cost $300 million to make. Somebody's paying for that, and it isn't going to be the CEO making $27 million like David Zaslav over at HBO or something like that. When they need more money, they start just charging more money to the consumer. So with a boutique label, how are they able to pay those high import fees? These are smaller companies as it is. They don't really have anywhere else to pull from. So unfortunately, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to charge more money for those 4K Blu-rays at least on the import fee itself. it's going to cost us more money to get those imported here to the United States. So movies like I'm worried in the near future because of the Dollars trilogy coming to 4K Blu-ray. I'd like to pay for those before those, with the pay them completely off before they get before those tariffs kick in, because I'm worried then that because I usually buy them from like either Diabolic DVD or the Atomic Movie Store. So and it's usually like $5 for like shipping and handling, but I worry if that goes up to like $25. It's going to be hard to get everything on 4K Blu-ray that I would want, and it's already getting tough. I already have to pick and choose what I personally get on 4K Blu-ray because of the high prices. So if it gets to the point where like every 4K Blu-ray is around that $50 price mark, we're going to really have to pick and choose already. Then we already pick and choose. So it will get tough. And I'm sorry to kind of go into a little bit of a darker thing there. I know that no one likes to talk politics, and it's not really necessarily a politic thing, but it's just how it's going to affect us going forward. I don't want to see us have to pay more money than we're already paying. It's already a very niche market with high prices that you already have to convince people to buy. The hope is, though, that as time goes forward, like last week, when Anora won the Best Picture, Sean Baker went up there and talked about how, we need to have more, theaters and have a longer theatrical run. I think that's important too. That way also people will get more excited about the movies coming to physical media, like back in the day, like when Blockbuster was around. So, it turns into what's the best route. It's just, unfortunately, I feel like us in the physical media community and the movie loving community, we get kind of screwed over the most because they're already I feel like they're kind of sucking us dry to the very end because we're like the last ones hanging on to like going to the theaters and buying physical media. I feel like that sometimes, but I also feel like people are going back to the theaters to go see like older movies. Like Interstellar last year was a big deal. So there's hope. I just have so much hope, but again, we'll have to wait and see. A good one. Mark Wahlberg was insane. So yeah, I know that was a little bit of a tougher topic to talk about, but I do think it will increase over time. But thank you guys, and thank you, Pop and Fresh, for that question. I think it was important. And Hard Rocker said, I want to totally get away from digital movies, whether it's streaming or buying movies, and go totally physical media movies, even if I had to go Blu-ray only. So funny enough, I actually have been getting more Blu-rays lately for like, I'm doing that Tony Scott video at the end of the month. So for that, I'm trying to get the movies and fill my Tony Scott holes that I have in my collection, like Enemy of the State. I have to get on Blu-ray. I still don't have that one. I don't have his first film that he ever directed. So there's a couple in there that I still have to get. The Taking Out Pelham 1, 2, 3 remake. And then I think his last movie that he ever watched, I saw in theaters, actually, Unstoppable, with Chris Pine and Denzel. So there's a couple. So I've been just getting the Blu-rays, and that's fine. Some, like I said, if there's this great upscaling with a good OLED and a good Panasonic player. So, if you got to just get the Blu-rays, I don't think that's a problem at all. Just have the movies that you love to have in your collection. I think that's always the best way to go. The Electric State is the Russo brothers movie. Thanks for the tariff thoughts. Appreciate it. No problem, Poppin' Fresh. I hope that makes sense. And hopefully I didn't let you down. And then let's see what Mark's movie made. Do you think the studios are hoping imports go up and that's why they're hiking the price up now? I mean, that's very possible. That could be exactly what their thought process is. The hope is that these tariffs don't go into place. I'm afraid it's really going to hit us. And that's obviously what I'm most afraid of, because unfortunately, the consumer always makes up the difference, never actually the companies or the country like it's designed to. It's always the people working their asses off that end up getting screwed over the most. And that's just the way it's always been. We are the majority, so that's the way it goes sometimes. Actress of Movies said, if you were Scarface, what movie quote or mantra from a movie that someone else says in another movie will you tell yourself as Scarface to calm down so you don't kill Steven Bauer's character? Like, what could I tell him to calm him down? I don't think there's any way in the world you can calm down Tony Montana. And he made a big mistake. He warned him about Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Like, that's his sister. This is your buddy. You should not have done that. I think he made a big mistake, and that's why he got blown away. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. That would be a good one. I agree. Paul Dano to play Scorsese in 1980s. A fun moment in a time biopic. It's funny. That's actually a great idea. Paul Dano is really good, by the way. He's a fantastic underrated actor. He was in the movie also that with another biopic with him and John Cusack, one of the rare John Cusack movies I also really liked. The Beach Boys documentary that came out not documentary, the biopic film. That's what happens when we get down towards the end. When I have an hour 15, my mind starts to go a little bit. Let me look at some of the questions I didn't answer on this week's show, because I did answer a bunch. I also got to pick some of the questions that we're going to do for the week. Where's Mr. Smelly Potatoes question? Because I like this one. What is your favorite animated movie of all time? And what's your favorite movie that blends animation with live action? So my favorite animated movie of all time is The Lion King from 1994. This is right at the height of the Disney Renaissance. I mean, they took off with The Little Mermaid in the late 80s. Then obviously in the early 1990s, you had Aladdin in 92, Beauty and the Beast in 91, which was actually nominated for a Best Picture. And then in 1994, believe it or not, the B team, at least considered the B team over there at Disney Animation, were working on The Lion King, while the A team was working on Pocahontas. They thought that was going to be the next big one to blow up. But believe it or not, the one based on Hamlet, The Lion King, which has a fantastic cast of voice actors, blew up and became one of the biggest animated films of all time. And it's still my favorite animated film of all time. I was a young kid, taught me a lot about death. Still holds up, in my opinion, to this very day. The remake that came out a couple years ago, I did not enjoy at all, despite the fact that Jon Favreau directed it. And I still haven't seen the Barry Jenkins prequel that came out a few months ago. I'll check it out at some point. I like Barry Jenkins, the director, but that kind of does feel like a paycheck movie. And from all I've heard, I really love Wild Robot. I still need to see Wild Robot. I've heard nothing but good things. I also know a lot about it, so I already know that I'm going to cry, and I got to warm myself up to crying. Here's a good one from Kylie Tinkle. Oh, I didn't answer the second part of that question. And what's your favorite movie that blends animation with live action? Well, you know that I'm an 80s movie fan junkie, and the biggest one that came out in the 1980s that blended live action and animation, of course, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is also a huge deal because that also combines Warner Brothers and Disney Animation, like combining them, like their characters had to have an equal amount of screen time. But it's also one of Bob Hoskins' best performances. And the beginning animation, that beginning like short, was also on another movie that I had on VHS. I can't remember, but they took out that whole part that reveals like that, with the baby in the cartoon before Roger, like they'll cut and he reveals to us that it's actually a live action thing. Just absolutely love that movie. So I have to pick that one. I mean, how could it not be? Honestly, it may be my favorite of all time. Really, The Wild Robot might be your favorite animated film of all time. That's really saying something. I mean, I know a lot of people were hoping that would have won the best animation feature at the Oscars. Flow won, which I'm looking forward to seeing. It's actually available right now on Max. It's going to get a Criterion 4K Blu-ray release. Sounds like the type of movie that would get a Criterion 4K Blu-ray release, but I'm very interested in seeing that as well. So I'll get to The Wild Robot. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yep, you thought you got there at the same time me, if not a few seconds before. Aaron Click said, I know a lot of people find 3D gimmick, but if 3D 4K Blu-rays became a thing, would you collect them? So not me personally, honestly, because I have a thing with 3D. I get motion sickness really, really, really bad. So unfortunately, I could not get that because I don't really enjoy 3D. I'll make some exceptions like the Avatar movies in theaters, but never got into the 3D at home. Now, John Doe Juggalo, on the other hand, I'm sure that he would be all over that. He still loves 3D Blu-rays and still gets them all the time. So I know he would be thrilled if the 4K Blu-ray format went to 3D. So you always hope for those people that they get exactly what they want. It hits differently for me as a parent. And that's the thing. I imagine that as a parent, that movie's got to hit hard. Hey, Dark Room Reviews is here. What's up, buddy? Make sure you guys are always subscribing to Dark Room Reviews. So head over there as well. What's up, buddy? Glad to see you here. Jose, what up, John? At work, giving this stream a listen. Jose, you actually won another digital code, buddy. So congratulations for your thing last week for your question. Leprechaun is so in case you were wondering, and you actually won a digital code. So congratulations. I want to answer this question. Who in your opinion is the better actor, Sylvester Stallone or Steven Seagal? I hate Steven Seagal, so Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone also, like, the Rocky franchise, rewatching it, talking about it with David past week for our Rocky 2 show, made me definitely appreciate Stallone more, just because the guy, he writes, he directs, and he acts. He does some pretty bad acting in a lot of movies I don't really enjoy, which is why if you go head to head Stallone versus Schwarzenegger, I'm always taking Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's my guy. But I also understand why people take Sylvester Stallone. If I had to pick a person who has more talent in the film industry, maybe not talent overall, you got to go with Sylvester Stallone because the guy, I mean, like I said, he's willing to do it all, and he's also got some great performances in there. But this is the guy who plays John Rambo. The First Blood is his best performance, in my opinion. But Rocky, the whole entire Rocky franchise, he's great. He should have got an Academy Award at least once for at least either the original Rocky or which is a tough year because I think that was the year that Peter Fink won for Network. But still, tough year. But if I had to pick, that's the one I'm going with. Thanks, man. All right. Congrats. I'm glad to see you won again. Jose. Hey, Our Life in Horror is here. What's up, guys? Glad to see you. Make sure you guys are subscribing to Our Life in Horror, please. They're great. We've been on me and Frank and them did a live show with a couple other great guests a few weeks ago. Really enjoyed them, and they have a great YouTube channel. You guys should be subscribing to Our Life in Horror right away, if I had to say. I wonder if people realize that Stallone wrote Rocky. I don't know. I mean, it is one of the most famous stories in Hollywood, how Stallone was literally down to his last dollar, sold his dog Buckus for $50 just because he needed money, bought him back eventually. But he sold it and believed in himself. He wanted to act in it. Then he believed in himself so much he directed Rocky 2, wrote Rocky 2. Yeah, this guy gambled on himself and then it won Best Picture. So it's incredible. Who is your least favorite NFL announcer? Well, whenever Joe Buck announces, whether it be with football or baseball, he's always my least favorite. So sorry about that, but I have to say it. Man, Actress of Movies says, may you please trade one Anne Hathaway starring role for one Jennifer Lawrence starring role? Ooh, that's a good one. Well, Anne Hathaway, can you imagine Jennifer Lawrence in The Devil Wears Prada? That would be definitely something very different. I think she could pull it off, though. But what Jennifer Lawrence role would I want Anne Hathaway in? I guess, what was that? Silver Linings Playbook. That would be awesome. Oh, my God. Thank you so much, Poppin' Fresh. $100, man. I really appreciate it. John, you're a walking movie encyclopedia. Thanks for all the knowledge, the Butcher Man. Butcher Man rocks. Thank you so much, Poppin' Fresh. I appreciate that so much. That really does mean the world to me. I'm really glad that you appreciate it. Aaron Cook said, hey, John, I don't mean to spam, and I know you can't answer everything, but did you answer my Ghostbusters question? I had stepped away for a moment. Where is your Ghostbusters question? I didn't see it, but I'll answer it right now, buddy. Let me scroll up. I'm guessing it's here. I answered your 4K Blu-ray question, but let me see. Where is it? Is this it right here? Yep, here we go. Do you think Sony will release a standalone 4K Blu-rays of Ghostbusters with Dolby Vision? I think the version with Dolby Vision is currently locked in an out-of-print Ghost Trap box set. So, funny enough on this, so they have the 4K Blu-ray. It's very cheap. It's always on sale, the 4K Blu-ray for the original Ghostbusters. I actually haven't grabbed it. I actually have that Ghostbusters 1 and 2 that kind of comes in that book. They did a similar thing for Malcolm X. But that 4K Blu-ray I haven't picked up because the original Ghostbusters is not the most, the way it looks, it's hard to clean up, but I'm very curious about that Dolby Vision version. I think you're right. I think it's locked behind that box set that came in that, it's supposed to look like The Trap came out a few years ago. I didn't grab it because, I'm not the biggest fan of Afterlife. I haven't gotten Afterlife and Frozen Empire on 4K Blu-ray yet because I don't really necessarily love those movies. I just love the first two, and Ghostbusters is just an absolute classic, just one of the greatest comedies of all time. But I haven't gotten that. But if the Dolby Vision cleans up a lot of my issues with the 4K Blu-ray, because my cousin Matt has it, who used to be here with me on the channel, I just don't think it's a bunch of a big upgrade from that Blu-ray to the 4K Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is good enough, but I would love to see that 4K Blu-ray. And yeah, hell yeah, Poppin' Fresh. Thank you so much. And Aaron, you're not spamming, man. I appreciate it. And now we can go to Passengers maybe too. She is better than that sci-fi movie. Maybe. Passengers has a great premise and should have been way better than it actually ended up being, but it just didn't end up working out. Again, with that stacked cast, it should have worked, but it didn't work, and that happens sometimes. Let's see. Let's make sure. I want to make sure I answer everyone's question, and I got to pick some questions of the week. So I'm going to go with Kevin Kruger's question because I do like the box set question. I thought that was a fantastic one. So we'll go with Kevin Kruger's box set question. We'll also go with Movie Dude 1988s because I do like the question about the brother Solomon. That's going to be one of our questions of the week. I'm not getting out of here yet. I just want to make sure we pick the questions of the week. Doing it live makes it a little bit different. And I guess we have to go with the title question, right? The St. Patrick's Day question. I mean, that was the title of the video. So who did that? Who did that? Who did the St. Patrick's Day question? St. Patrick's Day is Deathstalker 83. So Hard Rocker 83. So Hard Rocker 83. Movie Dude 1988. And then, of course, last but not least, what did I say was the first one? This is what I do when I do it live, guys. Doing it live. Kevin Kruger. So, yep, those will be your 3 questions of the week. Hopefully, I don't forget them. But let's continue on. Let's talk about some movies still. What else do I got in here? What movie? Here's another one from Deathstalker, a movie. What movie do you want a sequel to that you never got? And what movie has a sequel that ruined a franchise? Well, Star Wars has tried to go out of their way to ruin their franchise, like ever since Disney. And actually, this ties into another question I think that Haunted Pillowcase said about what's my thoughts on the James Bond franchise and what, Amazon taking over. And I talk a little bit about this tomorrow on the Let's Talk physical media show. But, James Bond, there's been this rumor this week that Christopher Nolan, they promised him final cut if he directs the next James Bond film. That's all good news, right? Then we also hear about that they want to do a Moneypenny spinoff or a bunch of other spinoffs, like one things we've always heard about, like have the 007 character be a female, which that can work just as long as it's not James Bond. But there's a bunch of different of these spinoffs that they keep talking about, and it's a little bit frustrating because that's the stuff that I'm afraid they're going to do. They're going to Disneyfy it like they did with the Star Wars franchise, because the Star Wars, like when we first got the Force Awakens and the next year we got Rogue One, I thought I'm like, okay, it's in good hands. And it fell apart so fast, which is really disappointing. So I'm very afraid that the James Bond franchise is going to meet that same fate, especially if you hear, and again, this is stuff that's being reported on by Variety, but it's all hearsay stuff. It sounds so crazy, but anything's possible nowadays. But hearing about how, like Jeff Bezos said, and whatever it takes, pay Barbara Broccoli, because he just didn't agree with how she thought of it. And that's really disappointing. Frank is in the house. Hi, Frank. By the way, Frank, our Barnes and Noble stores here in California are no way near as cool as yours in Oregon. Very limited 4K boutique titles here. Yeah, it's funny. I actually went into a Barnes and Noble last week. Do you guys have these around the rest of the country? They just opened one in my local mall. It's called the Ford's Garage. But Ford's Garage has this they have this burger there that they print the Ford logo on. But anyway, Barnes and Nobles, we go in. It's right next door. It's in the mall. They have a nice 4K collection over there. They have the entire like Criterion collection, but they upcharged it at my Barnes and Noble for all the 4Ks. Like Criterion's 4Ks were every 4K in there at an extra like $5 on it. I couldn't justify buying anything. They also didn't have anything that came out within the last month, so they're definitely getting stuff a little later. But I was disappointed in my Barnes and Noble. Nothing like what Frank's got up there, at least. And then that's the only store you can even buy physical media in over by me, and so it's not great, which is disappointing. Brendan wants to know, what is your favorite Evil Dead movie and which looks best on 4K Blu-ray? So the best 4K Blu-ray for the Evil Dead franchise is actually Evil Dead Rise. That has probably the best Dolby Atmos track I have ever heard. The sound mix itself is incredible. Whoever did the sound mix on that, they've actually commented on the video before, but they did a tremendous job. That audio track is absolutely great. Looks fantastic as well. So Evil Dead Rise, I think, has the best. My favorite Evil Dead, though, is still the original Evil Dead movie. That's also probably the weakest on 4K Blu-ray, but the original Evil Dead is still my favorite. I like the hard horror. Evil Dead 2 is like kind of that mixture between Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, but I love Army of Darkness too. The only Evil Dead movie I'm not actually truly in love with was the remake, even though that movie is still really good. Some of the stuff they were going with was kind of a reflection of horror at the time that I wasn't 100% in love with, but still really like that Evil Dead movie. Let's see what else. Popping fresh again, buddy. Yep, Criterion Collection still have the three Barnes and Noble stores I visited. You're right, John. Yeah, it's just they have the Criterion Collection, but they don't put that much effort in the one by me, and it's just weird. It's just like, I guess it's some areas they treat them a little bit better. I see all these people like with their Walmarts having these beautiful like collections where you can actually go ahead and buy stuff, and we don't got that here in my area. We don't. Walmart still like has like 4 things. It's connected to the book section, which is connected to the vinyl section. It's only one shelf. It's just not as fun, and it's really disappointing, honestly. What movie would you rather see a live stunt show for? Wanted or V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta is a good one. You can really get a lot of mileage out of that too, because V for Vendetta, its story, it's only getting more and more relevant by the day. No disrespect to the Criterion, of course. No, I understand what you're saying, buddy. Just watch Evil Dead Rise. I'm with you. That Atmos track blew me away, right? Isn't that Atmos track incredible? And the especially that elevator scene. That elevator scene. I mean, and Mickey 17 had a pretty good mix itself when I saw that in theaters. Like, just, when you can hear things coming from behind you, in front of you, it's just mixed very, very, very well. Mozart, do you have a favorite Kevin Costner movie? Is Field of Dreams for me. I did my favorite Kevin Costner movies ranked a few weeks ago. I think I had Field of Dreams at number one. I love Bull Durham too. Kevin Costner is a tremendous actor. He just kind of fell off, and then now he's kind of doing Yellowstone stuff. And he popped up in Man of Steel. It was good to see that, and also in Maggie's Game. And he still kind of acts like with Yellowstone. And then obviously he had his Horizon movies, which, it's like kind of disappointing that we haven't gotten 2 yet. I know it's coming. And 3 and 4, like, they haven't even started filming it. He's got to get the funding. You admire what he's doing, but it just didn't really work out. But also Silverado, he's a lot of fun. And No Way Out's one of my personal favorites from him. He's always pretty good. And for at least, like, he had that run where he was like on top of the world. Like, I know people love Dances with Wolves. I'm not the biggest Dances with, and same thing with The Bodyguard. He's great in it, but not necessarily my favorite. So we're getting about to an hour and a half. So I'm going to wrap this up in about a little bit. I have to actually eat before 9 o'clock, or I can't eat until tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. Cast Pete Davidson as a pitching process, son of Kevin Costner, Bull Durham character, and becomes the coach. That'd be interesting. Actually, I could see Pete Davidson definitely being the son of Kevin Costner. I mean, Pete Davidson's a very underrated actor, in my opinion. What was that movie he did? The King of Staten Island. He was pretty good in that. Also, Bill Burr was hysterical in that as well. And the Jets thing, the Jets will come back. That really struck me to my core, because the Jets will just never come back. The Jets just decided that they wanted to kill my soul. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here now. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Poppin' Fresh, thank you again so much for that super chat. That means the world to me, buddy. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys all who sent Acker some movies. Frank for being here. Shamrock Balls. Everybody else, let me make sure I get everything. Thank everyone for being here with me today. Aaron Click, thank you so much. Our Life in Horror, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you subscribe into Our Life in Horror. Actress of Movies, John Doe Juggalo. Everybody who's in here. I'm Dark Room Reviews. I make sure Mr. Smelly Potato, thank you so much. Uncle V for being channel directors. Just so we got Nicholas Head's a new channel director. You got to reach out to me, buddy, Nicholas Head, and let me know what your director's review is for the month of March. Email me, Instagram, Facebook me. I know it doesn't give me an email address to message you guys. You got to message me. So thank you guys. Have a good night. I appreciate all of you. Thank you guys. And I'll be, like I said, not going to be on next week's show. There will be no show. I will let you guys know, though, who wins the question of the week during the week, even though there won't be a show next Saturday. And then we'll be back March 22nd with a show with David, a.k.a. Shamrock Balls. So make sure you guys send in questions that you want to ask David as well as me. And if you're watching us on the replay, as always, thank you guys for checking it out again. And we'll see you guys around.